Hello and welcome to episode 48 of our Conversation to Connect. Let's Get Real Talk, powered by Exceptional Connections. Can you believe it? 48 goes by fast. We'll be at 50 before long here. So I'm Cyndi ONeill-Dady, the founder and chief connector of Exceptional Connections since 2009. At Exceptional Connections, we offer intentional and innovative solutions to boost your business. So each month we nominate a different member of our community to have a meaningful conversation with. So be sure to make yourself comfortable with a cup of tea or a beverage of your choice and take notes. Be sure to add comments and questions to the chat box. I see you guys are loaded and ready to go here. And, join us and engage in our conversation. So around the 45-minute mark, I'll be unmuting the lines and invite our listeners to ask questions, share their epiphanies, their ahas, and of course, to enter into our thought-provoking conversation. So the inspiration of our bi-weekly Conversations to Connect, Let's Get Real Talks, is to create purposeful conversations. We really, desire to be relevant during these challenging and uncertain times. And of course, to support our community to make an impact in the world and stay connected. So as we get started, I invite you to set aside all distractions, invest your attention in the conversation that's about to unfold, and look for just one idea or, some kind of thing that you can take action on so that you don't cheat yourself out of the time that you've invested here. So our conversation this week is with the beautiful, amazing Melony Buenger from Portland, Oregon. Actually, it's Milwaukee. Isn't that more accurate?
Yeah, they're right by each other.
Yeah, so sister cities, right? So welcome, Melony. And we're going to be talking about working from a place of rest, serving from your overflow. So glad to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. I love just connecting with people around the world. And it was so nice to come be live with your community last week. That was wonderful.
It was. What a treat to have you come join us and be our third in-person speaker after a 27-month virtual event. So that was a real treat. And so thank you so much. So before we dive into this intriguing conversation, I want to take a moment to introduce Melony to our listeners. And I apologize, I did not turn my phone off. So we'll work on that. Okay, so Melony Buenger is a faith-based business development coach and speaker who helps you put God in the foundation of your business and goals. She will help you ignite the fire within through her signature programs, group and private coaching. Melony works with entrepreneurs, ministry leaders, and influencers of all types who want to make a difference and transform lives, teaching you how to expertly care for each part of your life while aligning your family and business missions and values. I love that. So important these days. So Melony is also an impactful national speaker who will have your crowd inspired, motivated, and committed to take action. Her techniques will have you knowing that you can achieve whatever God-sized goals are walking by faith. Oh, I love that. God-sized goals. So thank you for that. We're looking forward to being able to get some nuggets from you. So, before we get going, share a bit more about your journey with our listeners.
Okay, well, I'm a mom. I love to say that I'm a mom, and I have two beautiful daughters that are 14 and 17, and I've been married for 18 years. And so I have been an entrepreneur for over 20 years. And the reason why is I wanted to be able to stay home with my kids and then to create some income to come in there's been many different seasons in my life, and that has changed. I had a very lucrative photography business for several years. I was a health coach for 10 years. And then I went through a season where I lost 5 people in 9 months. And I went through a 2-year grief cycle. And when I came out of that grief cycle, what I was doing, I really wanted to shift because I wanted my life to have more purpose and meaning. I just wanted to make sure I knew that my life was a gift, and I wanted to make every day count and be a blessing to somebody. And so that's at that point that I really started going and getting some more training on my coaching and my ministry certifications, and really learning how myself to put God in the foundation of my business. And really, I started seeing the difference of how much more joy I had when I was doing the things that I love, giving God the credit for the things he was doing in my life, how much more free I felt. And I wanted to share that with other people. And so that's really how everything is kind of created by me. I'm kind of awakening the goals that I had in my life, or the dreams that I had, maybe putting them on hold and playing smaller because I didn't see the potential or didn't think I had the resources. And then I just started saying yes to where God was calling me. And as I did that, different doors started opening up. And that's really where I'm at today. Is I love to help inspire people, let them see the potential in themselves, let them use the platforms that they have so that they can make a bigger impact and influence in people's life, to create income, impact, and influence while they walk out the God-sized plan and calling that they have on their life.
Gosh, there's so much there. Just in you sharing your journey, there's so much to unpack there, but thank you so much for that. And, it's a great place to just jump off and have you set the context for our talk today and review the 4 points that we're going to be focusing on.
Okay. Well, I believe that it's important to have your family vision and business vision and mission in alignment. And when you do that, you have more power in your yes. You can really honor your family more, and I believe have more peace, as well as learning how to fill your cup so that you can serve from overflow with joy. And then again, just kind of like right now is the perfect time in October to be looking at, while we're in the last quarter, to set yourself up for a successful year in 2023. So how can you look at those goals and make sure that you are in alignment and that your calendar is operating from a place of being in line with God, being in line with your mission, and bringing you joy so that you are not overwhelmed.
I love that, that positioning ourselves for, being in the last quarter, the fourth quarter of the year, or moving into it, and being able to, have a vision for ourselves, for our business, which everybody says mission and vision for your business, but to have it for your family, I think is beautiful. And then to have them be aligned is, I think, really powerful. So I've been looking forward to this talk and really digging in here and talking about, when we talk about filling our cup, like you just mentioned, what might be, can't talk, what might we be doing that is depleting us or emptying our cup?
Well, first, I think it's important to realize that what I do and what you do can be different to fill our cup or to deplete it, right? So we have to identify for ourselves, are there things that we're saying yes to out of obligation? Are there things that we're doing that when we're done, we have an energy suck and we're thinking, man, I'm exhausted, and you only did that for 30 minutes. Or maybe you're serving in a community someplace and you're just saying yes because there's nobody else that's going to do it, and you feel like, well, no one else is going to do it, I have to do it. And so this is where I really want to encourage you to say no. And that's going to be hard for some of you, but saying no actually opens up the door for somebody else to do it and to use their gifts, because sometimes we're doing it because we think nobody else is going to do it. So I want to encourage you this coming year that if you've been doing something out of obligation, if you feel like no longer that's something you should be doing, to go ahead and say no, to give yourself the permission to say no. It was really hard for me to learn that no was a complete sentence and I didn't have to explain myself.
Yes.
But if you do, just say, for this season, that's not something I can do. Can you come back to me in 6 months? Because sometimes when we lay something down, it allows somebody to say like, oh, I could do that. There's a need for that. And I always really believe when we're in a position of influence or something, you should be looking for somebody that you can mentor. Who on your team or who in your group is somebody that you see potential in, that's a person of peace, that wants to serve alongside you, that says yes to do anything from, opening a door and greeting somebody to doing all the detailed work behind the scenes, that nothing is too big or too small for them. And if you do that and you mentor them, when you have to lay something down, it's a lot easier to say, you have done an amazing job at this and you have helped me so much. And just kind of raise them up in that position. And then sometimes it's easier to step down as well too, and to lift them up and give them that opportunity to shine.
Oh my goodness, there's so many wonderful points that you've made there. So the thing that comes to mind for me is the need is not the call, right? I've heard that. And whenever there's a situation where there's a need and you feel compelled to call it, but it's not really your place to do so. It's just because, like you say, there's a void. And what do they say about it's like a bore's to fill that space, right? There's always this calling that space needs to be filled, but it doesn't mean we're the ones that's supposed to fill it. So
and other times it is because we identify it, that we are just that person who is supposed to do it. So it can work both ways, right? But you need to kind of check in with yourself and say, okay, where am I at? When I was a young mom, serving in the nursery was not a place for me to be, because I didn't have the patience to love on more babies. I needed that 45-minute break for myself, but helping at another place was, right? So I think that that's okay to give ourselves grace and to know that. And so your question though was, what fills our cup, right? And so that can be different. And so for me, I have had different seasons. I love to be outside. I love to take my walks outside I'm a people person. So one of the things I do is make sure that once a month I have a day that allows me to get with a girlfriend to go to one of the places that I like, whether that's the beach or Hood River, or just sitting down and really having a time to be present with them and to not be on some form of media or, the telephone or something like that.
Unplug.
For me, it's really connecting with somebody one-on-one.
Yes.
The other part is like, I love paddleboarding. So I like to go outside and just really unplug. I love camping. So, thinking about what are the things that bring you joy. And when you're done, you're like, oh, I'm so refreshed, right? There are days too, where, it's not really going anywhere, but it's giving myself permission to be at home and to just kind of stay in my sweats all day and not get ready and have a messy bun and just, maybe watch a movie or something with my kids and have some hot cocoa. So you have to identify what that is for you. Some people enjoy reading a book. Right now at this season of my life, to sit down and read a book, that like stresses me out because my mind's like all the things I can do. So reading a book fills somebody. For me, that doesn't fill my cup. Instead, when I do listen and read to books, but for me, it's more like, let me do something and listen to an audiobook, or be in the car and listen to the audiobook to get that in. But that's not really filling me up. That's just growing me.
Right.
So everybody's different.
Yes. And I love that you said, because really what you're alluding to is there's different seasons in our life. So at one point, being able to help out in the nursery, of course, is a joy and something you love doing, and it fills you up. And another, when you're a young mom, it wasn't, what you needed. And so being able to be sensitive to the season we're in is really, I think, important. And then the other point that you mentioned that I just want to attest to is being able to pray for wisdom. It's like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing now? And we do get that confirmation, don't we? In our walk with the Lord, and then be able to have that peace. And that's, to me, that's the marker for me, is I know I'm heading in the right direction if I have a peace, on me, that peace that defies all understanding. If I don't have a peace, I always have to stop myself and question, okay, what should I be doing, or where should I be going? So I love that. That's beautiful. I love the distinction of season, and then also identifying what fills you up.
Yeah, and I think, another part when you talk about your family, right, is if you have a husband or you have children, thinking about what it is that fills them up, right? My husband loves to be alone, and he likes to go for a walk and to be alone and to sit by the river. For me, I want to be with people. So it's kind of a difference, but we have to give each other space. So, in his schedule, he needs that time to go be alone. For me, I need that time to be with people. Right. And so that fills our cup up, and that creates that balance, and we can have that grace with one another in that situation. I also like to say, if you have children, or if you're married or a spouse or another partner, to say to that person, what's one thing that I can do for you this week? If I were to do one thing for you, what would be one thing that I can do for you this week? Because I think we put a lot of obligations on ourselves thinking, oh, I need to do this, or I need to do that. And we have these big goals and we're going after these businesses and we're working it, but we still have our family there and we cannot leave them behind, because that creates an imbalance and then they won't be supportive of us. So if you were to say, what is one thing that I can do for you? For me, it can be so simple. Like, my kids want to make sure that they have a conversation in the evening. Or it could be that, I watch a movie that I don't really want to watch, but you know what? It is what they need. That Friday, we have Friday fun nights and we sit down and we watch a movie together, and that's what it is. That's what they need. So
Right.
that's my gift to them. It doesn't matter if it's filling me up, it's filling them up.
Right. And I love that you're asking them what they need, because you can be imagining what they need and, bake them cookies or do all kinds of things, when what they really want is to sit down with you and watch a movie. So I think, just having that open communication and asking them is really important. So in talking about this, so obviously we focus first on yourself and, identifying what fills you up and then being able to seek that out. And so secondly, we're moving to balancing, work and family, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? How does that work for you?
Well, here's the tricky part. And that is that we're in such a good place right now, is you have to look at your calendar and you have to pull it out and you have to say, what is on here that is filling my cup? What is depleting me? Am I so full of my schedule that I have no room to add something new if I wanted to say yes, right? So you have to take a look and you have to say, what can I take off? And I'd like to ask this question. If I were to call and ask you for coffee, would you say, let me look at my calendar? Or would you say, I have this time? Because for me, my calendar, I know exactly when I have time, because what I do is I put in time for things to fill myself up. The first Wednesday of every month is my day, and I get to do whatever I want, and I don't really work on that day. I plan my vacations and it took me a while to be able to do this, but like when you're looking at this now, plan your vacations for 2023 now. When are you going to do that? Then once a quarter, and I like to do things the first weekend of every month, because that works well for my schedule. For a while, I did the last weekend of every month. So I would work really, really hard, set my goals, and then achieve those. And then the last weekend I had free and I could go do something with my family. So once your vacation, once a quarter, once a month, once a week, and then daily. And for me, daily, I need to have time to be in my word with God. Like, that is important and it's a priority. And having my time for my walk. Those are the things that are really priorities that I'm trying to do. And so I schedule those first, and then I fit my work around that. On Sunday evenings, I have implemented a family meeting. And so we talk about what do you have this week? What do I have? And find a way to work through that, so that we're balancing that. And, we may have things, or we may talk about something and say, I might need to say no to something, right? Right now in this season of my life, I'm being intentional about traveling once a quarter to a main conference to speak, because I need to be present with my kids. It's the last year. My daughter's a senior and she's going to be going off to college. So, that wasn't that way before. But right now in this year, I've set some strict guidelines about what I'm doing, and I'm trying to serve that way. So in doing that, put your time first to rest. So if you're planning to rest, then you can work from rest, because you are doing the things first that fill you up. And that's exactly what God calls us to do.
Right. When you mentioned that at our talk last week, I was like, patting myself in the back, and I'm like, okay, because I've in recent years, and I didn't do this before, I had, medical challenges, and I created a health team, and that's what I do. I put, I actually schedule them out 3 to 5 months out. So that's the foundation for my calendar, is my appointments that I need to keep me going. And so when you mentioned that, it just underlined the fact that if you do it the other way around, you're fitting yourself into your calendar, and you may or may not be able to do that. Whereas if you work from a place of abundance and, just building your foundation for your health and mental, spiritual, physical health, then think how much more productive we can be. So I think that's brilliant. And I love that. And I really appreciated that encouragement that is something that I've been doing, and to be more conscious of that and doing that in other ways for my family.
Now, can I tell a secret?
Yes.
This isn't as easy, you guys, as it sounds to be. And it really took me 2 years to get this rhythm going in my life. And so if I were to say like, oh, this is, it's so easy and this is all you need to do. The first year, it was that first Wednesday of every month that it was a non-negotiable for me. So pick one thing and make it a non-negotiable. And then you need to add some accountability into that. And I offer to be that person for you. Or, I was still trying to lead business meetings from my family vacations. Like, I would be camping and show up on a Zoom meeting. And I had to tell them before we're at the beach and say, like, if I show up, just tell me you got it, and be like, you're supposed to be on vacation, go. Because I was so committed to my goals, it was really hard for me to learn to let go and to delegate. And also because I had people who really at some points didn't follow through. So it was hard for me to relax and go like, oh, I can do that because, there's someone's going to be there. So I had to learn to put people in the right positions that I could trust. And then when I showed up there, to be like, Melony, you're on vacation, go. So, that accountability piece is the secret, because it's so easy to fall back in line. So think about, what is it that I'm committing to, and who's going to hold me accountable? And then, I like to think of like, we can think of like, okay, I'm going to do this month. And maybe you're going to take that Wednesday or one day for yourself. But the other one that's so easy, and that I shared last week, is that what's one thing you can do this week? What's one thing this week you can do to fill your cup, to fill you up so that you have more joy? Because look, we don't want to have to wait till next month to have more joy in our life, to have more energy. We need it this week. We need it today. So think of one thing, and maybe that's going for a walk. Maybe that's scheduling some time for a girlfriend. Maybe for you, it is reading. We still got some great weather left. So maybe it's going to pumpkin patch. What is it that's going to be for you? So one thing this week that you can do, and I'd love to hear for you guys what that is, because it's different for everybody.
Yes, that's a great question. And so feel free to add that to the chat box, and we can talk about that later also. I do want to mention Lisa Fisher mentioned asking your kids what they need helps them consider and identify what their needs are too, because they might not even really be conscious of that, right? So I think that's beautiful. It goes both ways. It's you're asking them so that you're, obviously doing something that you feel, or they actually feel that you're doing for them, that they can value, and also that you're helping bring that top of mind to them as well. So I just want to share real quickly a visual that I heard years ago, and it's always stuck with me. And it's like, if you had a big mason jar and you had a bunch of big rocks and little rocks and those little pebbly rocks and sand, if you're trying to fit it into a jar, you're nodding, so you probably have heard this before. If you add the sand first, you're not going to have room for anything else. But if we add the big rocks first, and then fill in with the little rocks, and then fill in with the pebbles, and then fill with the sand, we could get a lot more into that jar, and it'll be prioritized. So that's a visual that I've always used in my life, to when you're overloaded with this avalanche of things that you need to fit into your schedule, to prioritize is really important.
Yes, it's a great visual, and so true, because I remember the first time I saw that, I thought it just, you couldn't do it. And when they did it the other way, you're like, wow. And then they poured water in it too, right?
Yeah,
Like even after that, the second time, then they poured water in it. It's such a good visual that, we have to have our boundaries correct. We need to teach it to our families as well, right?
Yes.
And our children.
Yes.
And I think the thing that, I really had to learn is that with my two girls, they both have different love languages, and they both need different things.
That's a big deal.
And
You're
so
right.
what works for one doesn't work for the other. One
Mhm.
likes to just watch TV, the other likes to watch games or likes to go on a hike, so you have to be willing to shift and change and to do that. And to teach one another to be like, okay, we're going to do this for we're going to do this time for you, and next time we're going to do that. And that,
Right.
I think, that just really it helps create that support, right? And I think when people know too what you need, then it's easier for them to help you.
Yes. Yeah, it goes both ways. But I think in terms of modeling for our kids, it's so important that we're asking them these questions, that they're thinking about them, that we're, meeting their needs and realizing that they are different. They have different love languages. That's, that's another really great point. So in what ways can we discover power in our no? Because it sounds great, say no and be able to keep healthy boundaries, but it's another matter when you have to actually, articulate it and stand firm in your conviction.
Well, I almost think when we say no, it makes our yes more powerful, because people start appreciating our yeses more because they know we're not going to say yes to everything.
Mhm.
So, for instance, just knowing what causes you're going to align with, right? People start to know, like, okay, I have a passion for human trafficking and domestic violence. So people know that for that, or, I think as we start looking at those patterns and routines in our life, we can feel better about the things that we're saying yes to and the things that we're saying no to.
Yes.
Right. So I think I used to really feel so guilty when I said no. Like, I would feel so guilty, like, I really want to help you, and so when I learned saying that, that doesn't fit into my calendar this season or right now, but if you could come back and ask me in 6 months, I would love to reconsider that. When I realized that, or saying, that doesn't really work for me right now, but who loves this mission and who has a heart for this is my friend Sally. If you could, can I connect the two of you? Or, I can't do that this time, but Cyndi, she's an amazing connector and she's a great speaker. She might be just a great person for you to consider. When you become that connector, and you're so natural at that, Cyndi, but when you become that person that thinks like, this isn't for me, but who could do that, you're still helping that person. They just need a yes, right? Your no becomes more powerful, and your yes, when you are saying yes to the right things, you have more joy, you have more peace in what you're doing.
Yes.
And it's easier. You're able to do it with joy, and you're not depleted. And I think I was coming from a place where I really had to learn this. And many leaders, many influencers, many pastors have this, where there's so many expectations of us to do, that when we can create that balance and give somebody else the chance, right, and mentor somebody else or encourage somebody else, then we have that balance and we're serving from joy, and there's peace all around.
Right. Yeah. And we're choosing powerfully. We're choosing powerfully what we say yes to. So I have to share an example. So you and I were talking, and I was telling you about, I wanted to introduce you to Lisa Fisher before our event. And I was telling you about the skill shop that her and I are collaborating on having in January. And you were like, oh, I want to meet Lisa. I want to collaborate with her. I want to do the skill shop. When is it? And I told you, and you're like, my event's the next week. And that was a beautiful example, because it's something that you wanted to do, but you put it in the context of the reality is I'm hosting an event the next week, and I really should not be doing, coming to Seattle area and doing this as much as I want to. And so, I just want to acknowledge you, Melony, that you really, you walk your talk. And like all of us, I think that's such a beautiful example. It's something that you were interested, that you would really want to do, but the timing wasn't right. And you have to honor and value, because a lot of times I've done this myself. We say yes to things because it's like, when is it going to come around again? Right? When that it's an opportunity. But as you get closer to the event, you start feeling the anxiety and the stress that you put on yourself. in doing something that you really shouldn't have taken on. And so I think it's just a perfect example of, when we say no, it makes our yeses more powerful. I love that. I'm going to put a little star by that one.
Well, and I also want to think, we're going into the holidays, you guys, and how many of you party hop? 2 or 3 things in a day, sometimes 4. People invite you to an open house or a Christmas party or this or that. And by the end of the day, you're depleted. You've went there, but you really haven't been present with anybody, but you were like, oh, I just have to stop by. Right. That was something that I really struggled with. And it was nothing for me to not go to 3 birthday parties in a day,
Wow.
with my kids and different things. And so I really had to start saying no more than 2. That was hard for me because we had to really think like, okay, what am I going to do? But what it allowed me to do when I was at the event, I didn't have the stress of getting from one place to the next, the tension of, am I going to be late or I'm running in late, right? I was able to be there early. I was able to be there on time, or, let them know like I'm coming from this to that one, but I didn't feel the pressure of trying to do much. And where I was at, to be 100% present with the people that I was at. And even when I went into an event, like, sometimes, or a party, there's so many people. I come from a very large family. So my mom had 6 sisters. There were 7 girls. My dad had 4 sisters and 5 brothers. So when I tell you, I know what a big party is or a big group of people, I know, and I could work the room and really felt like I didn't connect with anybody. And so I just started also saying, like, when I go to this, who's the person I want to sit down and be present with? My Aunt Dora, her husband passed. I want to make sure that I sit down and I talk with her. How are you doing? What is happening? And having a cup of coffee for, 15 minutes and really listening to her and engaging and building that relationship. Versus, oh, hey, it's so good to see you. A hug here, didn't really get to do it. And then go, work the room. But I left thinking like, I saw everybody, but I don't know what the heck anybody's up to.
Yeah.
So those were the other things too, that the yes that I said, when I said yes to something, it was like, how am I going to go here and be filled up so I have joy, or that I'm bringing somebody else joy?
Mm-hmm. And you're being present in the midst of your yes, not distracted or, feeling like, okay, I've got to get to my next event, spreading yourself too thin. So yeah, the power of being, our no's being no and our yeses being yes, and being able to be conscious of what we want to accomplish, like that you said, there's certain aunt that you wanted to make sure you spend a little bit of time with is just really beautiful. And, although we're talking about family, it's really the foundation for our business, right? That's how we do our business too. We could actually, I'm sure you could use an example of, instead of a family gathering, it was a networking event. And, that's true as well. It's like, who do I want to connect with? In that context, I've found that whether it's a group of 35 people or 150 people in a room, I find that I meaningfully can connect with 2 to 4 people.
Well, and when I go to a networking event, I think of 3 people. Like I try to see who's going to be at that event ahead of time. Look at are we in alignment? Would that be a person that either one of my clients needs to connect with, right? Or is that somebody that I need, right?
Right.
On that piece. So I look at that ahead of time. The other part is, I think it's so tricky, you guys. And here's a trick that I do that I'm just going to share, because we've been online so much, right? How do I connect with somebody online? I always kind of look at the screen and I'm just like, of the people, and I'm just like, who catches my eye? And then I will write those names down, and then I'll just watch them and I'll send them a little note following up about something that, they shared, or, I learned about them, or that I'd like to know more. And I send them my electric business card kind of thing. And that is a way, because we have to be more intentional online about connecting. Yes. Right. So that's the other part. And Cyndi, you've done such a great job with that, with your exceptional connections and bringing community together. And when somebody comes, edifying them and making sure that people know one to another, that piece. And I think that's a great thing. And I would say, like, honestly, when I joined, when I was younger in my business, I would say, like, I'm going to go to a meeting. And if I didn't sell something, or, I didn't see a return right away, I didn't want to come back. And a lot of times I think we've seen that people who hop from one networking group to the next and like, oh, we know all those people, right? But you don't really have the relationship. The tip that I like to give to somebody is find a networking group or an organization that you really align with, that you like their core values and their beliefs, and commit to it for 1 year. Commit to it for 1 year to go in there and to serve and to expect nothing in return.
Yeah.
And I believe your return will be greater than you can even imagine, because the relationships that are formed and allowing people to really get to know, like, and trust you, that then they will be able to refer you more. And that's where a lot of my business comes from, is from referrals.
That's the magic.
That's an honor when somebody refers you to something.
Absolutely.
Because, you know.
Yeah, that is exactly the magic of it. And people don't realize it because it's always like the return, the tit for tat, I'm going and I'm going to get something out of it, but you haven't made the investment of yourself and allowed people to get to know you, the know, like, and trust factor to kick in. So that's really a beautiful point. I really appreciate that. Because people need to hear that. I think we need to have that mindset, that we need to give people an opportunity to get to know us, and for us to get to know them, serving selflessly, being able to make a commitment of that. And sometimes when you make that year commitment, whatever, 6 month or whatever it is, then you're not watching the ticker, if you will. There's not this, oh, what have I gotten out of it? Because you're just giving yourself the gift of time to be able to build those relationships and build that foundation. So the start of that, I think, is being discerning. Is this a group that aligns with my core values, that I can stand behind, that I can bring other people to and feel comfortable with? So all that, I think, is really, really brilliant. So as we're talking about at the beginning of this call, we're heading into the fourth quarter. It's the perfect time to start planning for 2023. And I really believe that wholeheartedly, what you shared at the beginning. A lot of people think, okay, I'm not going to be worrying about that. I'm just going to be, put my nose down for fourth quarter business. I'm not going to be really planting seeds for 2023 yet. But then what happens January 1st is that's when they're starting that planning process. So this is a great opportunity to kind of hit the ground running in 2023 by taking the time. So tell us about some action items that we need to focus on now that's going to help us be more productive as we enter the new year.
Well, and wanting to be ahead of the game versus where you're at, right? Like knowing your game plan, where you're at. And a lot of times we all see a little dip in business, in December, or we all want to take some time off to be with our family, but we have to be able to plan ahead so that that's still coming in. So what I really encourage you to do is take a look at this year. What kind of revenue did you bring in? What were your best sellers? What did you enjoy? And what do you maybe not want to do again? What do you have content already created of that you can bundle in a different way? Sometimes we think like, oh, I'm going to recreate. I need to create this, but we already have so much that we can use in a different way to serve us. So, and then look at those things and say, okay, what do I want to do next year? What is my monetary goal for next year? Who do I want to impact and influence? What are the top 10 partners that I want to partner with next year? Stretch yourself. Let them be a little bit ahead of you. Get your calendar out. Do the work from us part that we were talking about. Block that off. If you use, put it in red, it's a non-negotiable. So when someone comes, you already have something planned. Like if I were asked to speak and somebody says, hey, Melony, are you available this day to speak? And I'm already speaking at your event, I'm not going to tell the other person, oh, sure, I'd love to do that. Because guess what? I've already committed to speaking and serving your community. So my time to myself that's going to fill me up has to be valued that way.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times we think like, oh, I can do that and I'll move this, right? But when we start valuing ourselves that way, other people start valuing us and our schedule as well. And I'm not going to say that I won't, maybe move that day because a great opportunity comes up, but I sure am making sure it gets back on and that I have it in there. And I've said no to some amazing opportunities. I take my kids once a year to Crooked River, and we've went camping since my littlest was in diapers. And I have said no to some amazing opportunities because that is my time to go to Crooked River with my family. I believe faith, family, then business. And when we have that alignment, and, I know I've talked a lot about family today, but you guys, this is really a lot of what has changed my life, what has brought me a lot more peace and a lot more joy. And that is my why. And so when I have that balance, then it's easier for my business to be able to do that. So, okay. So then you set that in, think about who's going to hold me accountable. Do you have a mentor? Do you have a coach? Do you have a friend? Like, who's going to hold you accountable to those goals? And then, I want to say, what are you going to do in the next 7 days to help that? Right? Like, who do you need to call? What, if you've got those 10 power partners or ideal people, you need to start making a list of, do you know somebody who knows that person that you can start asking for an introduction to? So some different things on that to really set up your goals in that sense. And, I just encourage you to do that. I love to help people get really clear on their goals. And if you're thinking, I don't know what my goals are, or I don't know even what my gifts are, I've given this group a complimentary session, and I would love to talk with you because I can't explain it, but when I talk to people, it's just like I just get this downloaded. It is my gift to help people come clear on what their goals are, what the gifts are, and how they can use them to create income, impact, and influence. And so, I encourage you to think of and to start praying. What is my word for 2023? Right? And who, God, do you want me to impact to make a difference in their life next year?
That's beautiful. Those are two beautiful things to focus on. And at Exceptional Connections, for the last 8 years, we've all proclaimed our word for the year. And so come join us on January 10th if you're in our region. And we actually pick a word for the year. And one thing I started doing about, it was a couple of years before COVID, so it must be like 4 years now, is had people pick a word for the year for themselves personally, to inspire themselves, and a word for their business. And so we might, like, for my business, it's innovative. I need to innovate more in my, whereas for myself, it might be more intentional. And so I found that, just throw that in because you mentioned.
I love that. But I would say, as a coach, you need to be intentional with your innovation in your life and in your business.
Right.
And you get more business. I love that, though. Those go so well together.
They do.
And for me, I think when I talk about that is that when I was younger, I used to look at other moms and think, or, I had these kids and I was trying to do this, and I would look at other business women and I would think, how are they doing that? I couldn't do it. I was comparing myself, and, comparison steals all joy. And so when I learned to balance that and realize that, that business person is in a different season. They've been doing that for 20 years. I've only been doing this for 2. That it was easier to say, what can I glean from that person? And to be able to create that balance and be like, this is where I'm at in this season. And so I think that's what I really want to encourage people at, that we all change and grow in the different seasons. Yes. And can go to next levels. And when you see somebody who's ahead, look and see what have they done really well that you can learn from them. And then I love it now because people share, like, what were the things that I would never do again? And goodness gracious, don't do it again, because you don't. But I'll pray for that. That's good. 2 words, Cyndi. I like that, because those go really good together.
Yeah, they do. And you're right. They weave together and complement each other. But I think that having different focuses for yourself and your business, whatever it is that you come up with, I think is really important. Invariably, when we're picking a word for the year, since we're going in that direction, we usually have a couple that are on the top 3 or top 5 anyway. And so it just allows us to incorporate those ones that are, speaking to us. But really to put a bow around this conversation before we open it up for, input from those who are joining us today is, it's all about choosing and choosing powerfully, right? Being our word, choosing powerfully, putting ourselves first, honoring ourselves. And I love the way you've shared that. So, you briefly mentioned that you have an opportunity for an offer that you're making to be able to connect with someone. So share with our listeners how they would get a hold of you. And I'll put that in the chat box, and I'll put this in the description as well.
Oh, thank you. So you guys can text Playbook, and that is a great way for you to kind of it has an assessment of where you're at with your goals to kind of look at. It also has some tips so that you can work from rest, and it has a way to connect with me if you'd like to have a complimentary session just to talk about those things. Next Thursday, I'm also doing a masterclass that you're invited to at 1 o'clock on Thursday, Pacific Standard Time. It'll be on Zoom, and you can, if you DM me, you can join me, and it just kind of takes you through the 7 different steps that I look at, like what is my God-sized goal and vision, a little bit more about serving from overflow. I'm in Facebook jail right now, so if it takes me a minute to respond to you, I will do that. I don't know how I got there, but I'm working to get out. But Cyndi, I just love so much your heart and the community of people that you've brought together. There's just so much. And so I want to thank you so much. Your wisdom, you're so organized, and you have one of Cyndi's gifts, you guys, I'm sure is her gift of hospitality. She makes everybody feel welcome. She did some beautiful, when I was there, I saw her garden, and I got to see just some of the parties of where she hosted people into her home and made them feel welcome. And I learned so many different things from you just walking through your garden about how you pair, like we were walking and she had her tomatoes with basil, and she's like, here, taste this. And I was like, oh my goodness, that is so delicious. Like you are so gifted in that. And I just want to honor you and thank you for your heart of just service and sharing and allowing me to meet your community.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. It's mutual. I just enjoyed my time with you and just getting to know you. So thank you for making the drive, 4-hour drive. I don't know how it was heading back, but just your time, and also taking away from family, because that's ultimately you were, blessing our community, but your family had to be, had to sacrifice for a little bit. So thank you for that. Can you give me the date again of the masterclass that you offered? When was that?
It's Thursday. I believe it's October 27th, next Thursday, October 27th.
Okay.
At 1 p.m.
At 1 p.m. Okay. And what is the best way is that
it's
so it's
a Zoom
online?
link. Yeah, it's
Zoom.
online.
Okay.
So I can drop that or send that to you kind of thing as well. I was trying to bring that here and I couldn't share it because I'm in Facebook jail, but
Okay. So I'll put that, I'll put your contact information down below. And then
and if you just text Playbook to 503-750-0600, I can also send you the Playbook as well as get you the link to the Zoom class.
Perfect. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and open it up, because Lisa's been asking engaging and asking questions. And so I think it would be really great to have a conversation with her too. So Lisa, feel free to unmute yourself.
Hello, Melony.
Hello.
Hi,
Cyndi. Hey, thanks, Melony, for being here. So good to see you again.
good to see you too.
So quick question, as you're looking at the following year for putting those calendar items right in, so in this case it's October and we're looking to 2023. What is your rhythm in terms of when you do put those big rocks into the following year? Is that typically October time frame? I have found my rhythm has been in December. And yet I found that that feels too late. And so this year I was like, okay, I think this is going to happen in October, but I'd love to hear what your rhythm is.
So I start October, early November. So right now, like what I'm talking about is when I'm looking at it. And I actually don't do 12 months. I do 18 months.
Okay. Perfect.
So that way, it goes out, because a lot of times through the year, we have people saying, oh, this is coming up, right? And I like to have I do everything electronic, but I also like to have a printout paper when I'm doing that so that I can kind of see it. Because one time I accidentally flew in one night and had to fly back out the next night and didn't realize my speaking engagements were back to back, just because I was saying yes to too many things. So, I try to make my rhythm simple. So like when I said the first Wednesday of every month, the first week, and like, not, if I do the first Wednesday, I like to do the last weekend kind of thing, or the first, kind of like thinking what would work. Quarterly, once a quarter, like what is it that I want to do? And I will start asking my family, like, what's something you guys would like to do next year? Where would you like to go? What's important to you? We go camping in our RV. So what places did you like and what didn't you? Last year we did like more camping than I've ever did. We did like 10, but it was because of COVID. And I was like, I planned all this stuff because I thought we were going to be stuck, and then we weren't. And so then we were just on the go a lot. And then the girls were like, Mom, we don't want to be gone that much this summer. So we only did like 4 trips. Right. So kind of looking at, when do I want to do that? And on that piece. And so I start now to put them in there. And then when I was also saying, like, looking at my numbers, right? Like, okay, what kind of revenue do I want to bring in? Then I need to know how many speaking engagements do I want. I try to get in front of 100 people a month to speak in front of, and and one big conference once a quarter. So
Okay.
those are kind of my goals. And I'm looking at who's having those, or who do I know, who can I partner with on that sense to do that. And I think because I really enjoy Christmas, it's my favorite holiday, that if I get that done ahead of time, then I'm able to be more present at that time and shut
Put our
down a bit.
shoulders down. Yeah.
Yeah, shut down a bit, and then like, okay, I know where I'm at, and then hit the ground hard in January. Because if I don't do it until January, more than likely I've lost 2 weeks.
Right.
I mean, I can do it, but by the time, the kids are still off the first week of school. And then now I'm like slammed that second week with calls, trying to get back to each other because I took my vacation and I'm trying to set my goals. And it's really, it has been till the middle of the month before I've really had that vision clear, and versus kind of going into it ahead of the game.
Yeah. Super good. And what grade did you say your oldest is in?
She's a senior.
Senior, right? And isn't it like your junior year? Like the junior year, it's like an 18-month cycle, right? Because in your juniors, when you're looking at colleges and things like that, typically. So I completely hear you on why that 18-month really does make sense.
Yeah, this is a whole new thing for me. I'm learning about the high school kids going into college. And, I think also like planning, because, I've also seen a lot of people, that empty nester thing. Like if you don't plan, then like this joy, but also we got to plan for our future.
Totally. Yeah. Yes, agree with you there. So you had mentioned Power Partners and 10. Could you share more on, Melony, what you might consider a power partner, what criterias you look for, how do you pray about, what are you asking intentionally as you're praying about the potential power partners?
A lot of times I'm looking for the people that I serve who also serves that person in a different way.
Okay.
Right. So like my Be Radiant event, it's created, transformed, set free, be radiant. In that transform piece and that level up piece, one of the reasons why I wanted to meet you, Lisa, is, excuse me, a lot of people, they want to learn they haven't cared for themselves, or they're wanting to take their business to the next level, but they don't know how to show up that way. I love to shop, I love accessories, but I want to stay in my lane. So for me, you're a strong Christian woman, right? You love the Lord. You know, you believe the same way that I believe. So I can send my people who believe that way to you, right? And I'm looking, do they have the same style that I like? Do they complement where I'm at? Are they in alignment? And does my client need them? And would it be something where we could be complementary? One of the things that I'm doing is I'm going to be doing a list build, right? So it's, you know, for me, this has been a big lesson to learn, and it's in our niche, right? We can't serve everybody. So if you're looking on your niche, if you're in alignment with somebody, then, you know, like a marketing person, I'm looking for a social media person. I'm looking for a fashion or a stylist. I'm looking for a virtual assistant. I'm looking for things that my clients need that I don't do for them.
Oh, okay. So may I ask you a question, just a clarifying question?
Mm-hmm.
So as a wardrobe stylist, image consultant, what is spurring for me, and so see if I'm close, is what maybe my clients are looking for would be an alterations expert. So is that what?
Yes.
Part of those 10 alignment, these are this is resources. This is right. Businesses that could serve clients.
Also like a health coach
Yes.
coach or a photographer,
Yep.
a videographer. Those would be great people for you because they're all image related, how they show up.
Gotcha.
You know, a tailor would be a great person for you because if someone's coming in and saying, I've lost all this weight and I need to have this taken in and I don't even know how to dress anymore, they could be like, oh my gosh, you should go to Lisa. I think a travel agent would be a great person for you, Lisa. Your tip and your presentation that you had about how to pack was beautiful, right? Different like a place for you to go, different organizations for people who are traveling. Your group of people that are traveling to Israel, like you are, go to other churches that have other groups of people traveling to Israel, go in and be a guest and teach them how to do that. Some people may not know how to pull those things in there, may not know they're missing pieces, and they may need a personal shopper to go and shop for them to help them find those pieces so that they are not, that they have what they need when they go to Israel. You could specialize just in teams going to Israel that need to be styled properly.
Super interesting, and also confirming, because I did think of that after our conversation. I was like, wait, what? I think this is actually a thing, because Allison, we chatted and she was like, we're going to Israel, my church. And I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to come and talk to your pastor, like to your group. And so that's amazing. And I'm so glad we chatted, because when you were talking about power partners, I was thinking a power partner was someone that I would align with, that I could serve their people. But what you're actually saying is power partners to serve my clients, which I love and I had never really thought of.
Well, it's true. And I would say maybe half that way, half that serve your people and half that you could serve. You want it to be mutual, going back both ways, because even those people that you're saying, the stylist, the seamstress, you can serve their people.
Oh,
right. You're both ways. They can, so when you help them shop, that seamstress can seam your clothes and vice versa, kind of thing. And I think it goes both ways. And then also I challenge you to think about who's somebody who's ahead of you, right? Because knowing, like on that piece, we always want to get to where they're at. Like look at somebody, like who's somebody that inspires you, and maybe look at like a conference, like for me, and who's speaking on that platform, right? So I may not be there, but looking at that platform, and maybe those people might be power partners for me because I might be at that level, right? Mm-hmm. Or when you're looking for affiliates, you're looking for people who might be able to promote your event or your services, kind of thing. Not everybody wants to do that. So you're looking for somebody, like Cyndi and I, we want to help each other be visible. Like she's helped me be visible. I've came in, Cyndi is an amazing power partner. If you have her for a partner, you are blessed, because she's very organized. She's helps promote you. This is where it's at. And, I've came in and I've talked to her event. Now I'm here, and then we've talked about her coming and speaking on my podcast. Like I want to bring her to my community, because why? She has the same heart. She's in alignment with who I am, but also I want to give back. We want to be able to give both ways.
Right. I love that what you were saying, like being advocates for one another. It's important for us to do that. So it goes both ways. It's not just we're taking, or giving. So that's where people, I think, get mixed up when they're like, I've been giving and I'm getting nothing back. And it always cracks me up. It's because, well, your heart's not in the right place. You got to tweak that, because it's not about a tit for tat situation. It's, again, the garden analogy, we're planting seeds, we're watering it. We don't know what's going to, bloom.
Yeah.
That we don't know, but we do know the law of, nature, plant, seed, plant, harvest. We know that's a law in nature. And if we're following and water, yeah, we know if we're doing that good things are going to come up, right? So the idea of advocacy to me is just a beautiful thing.
Well, and I love, like I've always done a word for a year, Cyndi. And so like, I am going to do just like what you said, like pray for something for your business and pray for something for your family, because I think because there's growth in different ways.
Yes.
And they complement each other. And so like, I'm going to take from what you said to my life. Like, I love that. Like, I think I think we have to look about like, how can we partner with somebody that we don't have to be in competition?
Yes.
I mean, Cyndi, I've ran my own networking organization for years and it's been on pause now, but in your event, I just want to honor you. 13 years you've been doing your networking organization. And in that meeting, there were 3 other people who had ran networking organizations, right? And huge platforms. And she was connecting together and edifying people. And that right there, that is an example of what it is. It's about edification and raising people up and saying, when you have the conversations, how can we help each other be more visible? What is it that you need? How can I help you? Cyndi and I, we have conversations about different things that she could do to shift and do things differently with exceptional connections, because, people coming back and it's been from COVID, it's not the same way. Right. Mm-hmm. So, 2 minds are better to one, many hands make the work light.
Yes.
And, if we, but I do want to say, we have to be careful about, it's so easy to say just about the power. And yes, when you have a power partner and they have an event, like you guys have an amazing event coming up, right? Looking at it and saying, okay, is that an event that I can push to my group, or when can I do it? And put that on the calendar too. Like, I'm looking for 2 people to promote a month, right? So when you're talking to somebody and you've got those power partners, right? Like, when do you have an event coming up so that I can help promote it, and put it down and say like, yeah, I can help promote that. Or, what, I've already got 2 things then that I can do an email, but it's going to be a really hard thing for me to be a big blast. But do you have something later in the year? And then saying, I've already committed that, but here's somebody else. Let me introduce you to somebody that can maybe help you promote that.
Right. And you said it earlier too. I'm not able to attend your event because I already have a commitment, but I can promote it. And so that's what sometimes people think, I can't go, and then that's it. It's no. You can still be an advocate for that person, even if you can't attend their event. And then perhaps that comes full circle later. So, I love, the idea of collaboration. I think that's going to actually be, I've been praying about it. That's going to be my word for exceptional connections. And I'm already putting that into motion, because I think that right now we need to not be in competition with one another, but be in collaboration with one another. And I think that's where the magic is. So, I've felt that in my, being, that even though we do the same thing, we need to be able to lift each other up. I'm a big believer in a rising tide lifts all boats. So we're all benefiting when we're supporting and not having a scarcity mindset, but an abundant mindset. Especially right now, especially when things are tough and there's a lot of uncertainty. I think we need to push into that more than ever.
And I think that's going to be so beautiful for your community, Cyndi, because there are still so many people that have that feeling of isolation and they need that community.
Yeah.
And if you have a community that creates collaboration, what a beautiful place to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just trying to look up real fast, the scripture, just even on the body, right? We're
Mhm.
each different parts of the body, yet when we're each operating in our
Yes.
purpose and our intention, that there's wholeness, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, the hand doesn't feel like the foot is better
Right.
than or whatever. We're just
Right.
all part of the body, right?
Exactly. And
But
then, I mean, and look into the Ecclesiastes too, the fivefold Ecclesiastes, where they're all complementing one another, although they have different gifts and different focuses. The ultimate goal is to, be able to support the community, right?
yeah.
So there's so many ways to do that. Well, we've gone over on time a little bit, but if this was such a wonderful conversation, so rich, Melony. Thank you so much for your generosity and sharing with our in-person event in October and coming on today and being able to really dig deeper. And Lisa, thank you for being just you and being so gracious and asking good questions that I know other people who are listening to this replay will be able to benefit from. So Melony, I just want to kick it back to you to share just some closing remarks to kind of put a bow on this conversation. And again, be sure to text, and I'm going to go ahead and say it, text 503-750. Did I get that right?
Mhm.
503-750-060 and text playbook. And then should they put also your live event on there too, or just playbook and they'll.
Yeah, they can put masterbook. So it's 503-750-0600. One more zero, lots of zeros.
And
And
leave
you
a
can
zero
just,
out. Okay.
yeah, that's okay. Just text playbook. And you can also text the masterclass if you like information about the masterclass. Just keep it really simple. I'd love to serve you. Thank you so much. And I just really want to encourage you guys that, sometimes our goals seem so big, and maybe you're sitting with a goal that seems so big and so unattainable for next year, and maybe even putting something down that you really have felt obligated for, and you're really feeling like I need to put it down. What I really want to tell you is that where God calls you, he will equip you. He will equip you. And especially in a community like this, there's so many like-minded people. If you let people know your goals and know what your vision is, that goal that is within inside of you, it can become contagious. That mission can become contagious, and doors will open for you wider than you ever imagined. So remember, where God calls you, he will equip you, and learn to serve from overflow so that you have more joy in your life.
Thank you. So many words of wisdom that we can take in planning our new year. Thank you for the encouragement and your insights. And so thank you for those who have joined us today. You can check out other exceptional connections, conversations to connect, or the replays from past Spotlight speakers. Be sure to like and subscribe to this channel if you enjoyed this today and want to be able to take advantage of other conversations to connect. And so I'll just leave you with, remember to make every connection an exceptional connection. Thank you guys. Take care.
Bye, ladies.